What's up, everybody? I'm former quarterback Malik Rozier, and if football, sports interviews, and having a good time interests you, then make sure to click the like and subscribe button as it really does help support this channel, and it also makes sure that you guys never miss a new video. How's everyone doing? And welcome back to another episode of the Malik Rozier Show. Super excited to be here. Obviously, the Canes are 3-0. I know a lot of excitement's going on in South Florida. The Dolphins are winning. There's just a lot of positivity going on in South Florida. So I know I'm excited. I'm here for it. And we're going to go ahead and get right into it. So first, what we're going to talk about is how to keep the success. Obviously we beat Texas A&M. For us, that was huge. Obviously, we know that it's been a while since we've beat an SEC team, especially a good one. This team is talented. They had the number one class a couple of years ago, especially up front with the defensive line, and just to see the success that our guys had over the last 3 weeks has been just amazing. So number one is keeping everybody healthy. I know if you guys remember from last year, we had a ton of offensive linemen that went down. We had guys that were injured. Even when I played, we had Mark Walton that went down. Chris Herndon got injured. Braxton Barris was all beat up. We had guys on the defense that was hurt. So keeping guys healthy is going to me be the number one key to the success the rest of the season. Number two, physical football. One thing that happens is the longer that it gets into the season, the more banged up you get, the more tired you get, the harder it becomes. So, keeping that edge, that physicality throughout the entire season is going to be super important. Next, it's going to be no dumb penalties. I saw this a bunch watching the Cleveland Browns. They had a bunch of just bad plays. And so, if we cannot, put ourselves in a hole where it's like a false start or a holding call on like a big run, backside of the run, and like you shouldn't even be holding the guy, or like a PI on defense, or just things like that, personal foul, things that are just uncalled for, unnecessary. To me, if we can play clean football, it's really going to help us. And then lastly, trusting each other, TVD, trusting receivers, coaches, trusting coaches. To me, I think that part is very underlooked. There was one thing that I've been around plenty of staffs. Obviously everyone has their own form of their offense that, they want to run. Because to be honest with you, most offensive guys at some point want to become an OC or at least try. And you have guys that obviously, they'll give out plays, say, hey, like this is what I think we should run for the week, blah, blah, blah. To be honest with you, most OCs don't call it. They might have it scripted, but they ain't going to call it because it's not their play. And the fact that we're able to see Coach Dawson give Coach Mirabal credit and say, hey, this was his play. This is why we called it. To me, that's huge. That speaks volume. That means that these coaches trust each other, that, hey, man, if you give me a call, you tell me something that you've seen, I'm going to trust you because I know why Mario hired you. So to me, I think that's big. Not only with trust between the players, obviously defensive linemen, linebackers, secondary, you need that trust. But you need the coaches to trust each other because at the end of the day, like they're really the leaders. Like you say what you want about the kids, like, yeah, the kids lead, but like if you got your leaders not trusting the other leaders, how do you expect your leaders to lead the kids? You know what I mean? And that to me is what happens with a lot of new staffs. Obviously you got new personalities, some people have egos, some people don't. One thing that I really love is that I think that the staff is trusting each other. I think that when they speak to each other, it's on like equal terms. So there's definitely been staffs where it's like, no, I'm the OC, you're the tight ends coach, you're the running backs coach. Like I'm calling the plays, y'all just focus on your position. And to me, that just doesn't work in college football. Like too many of these guys are too smart. Too many of these guys care to like not have an input. I'm not saying that, every play that someone inputs is good, but at the end of the day, they're going to have one or two good ideas. And so the fact that Dawson was able to take an idea from someone else, implement it, and obviously it had a success. That was a touchdown that Jacoby George had with a little orbit motion, and he swung kind of back in the boundary versus Texas A&M. And so to me, that was huge. That was something that I think was very, very overlooked that people don't understand, especially when you're in the building, knowing that the coaches like each other, they listen to each other, and they collab, which makes it a lot easier. About the positivity of practice, things like that. A lot of the positivity and the juice, it doesn't really come from the players, to be honest with you. A lot of that juice, when you talk about getting the guys motivated, getting the guys going, it comes from the coaching staff, getting these guys going. Because you got to understand, like, when you practice in Miami, it's a 6:30, 7 a.m. practice. You're waking up half asleep. You might have had class all night last night. I remember I had, classes that would go from like 6 to 9. The next day I'm back up at, 6 a.m. going to breakfast and back at practice. So a lot of times the coaching staff was the one that was kind of waking us up, getting us going, kind of saying, hey, like it's practice time, like get it together. And so, the fact they like each other is going to really make it easy and really cohesive at practice. Next, what we're going to go over, I know it's kind of hard to see. I do apologize for that. But next, what we're going to go over is the success of Tyler Van Dyke. So number one, protection. His protection is Unreal. I'm gonna keep saying it. It is called the Great Wall of Mirror Ball. I hope these guys, are the offensive linemen of the year because I think a lot of these guys are really, really good and they're finally showing it, especially talking about the size and the talent that we had. And then you have Mirror Ball and Crystal Ball into the mix with productivity and technique. I think it's a really good combination up front. Next is the plays the receivers are making, man. You talking about Jacoby George, Xavier Restrepo, Kobe Young. There was even some flashes of Rashard Smith making some plays. So, really excited what these receivers have been doing for us. Yeah, I think the one group that I want to see more out of, and they've done a great job at blocking, is the tight end group. I want to see them more, in the pass game, but at least when it comes to like protections and running, the tight ends have been unreal. And I love that, that they're saying, hey, this is what we're good at, this is what we're going to do. One thing that you really seeing, Coach Dawson do is play to the strength of these guys. He's not making these guys try to become someone else. And hey, man, if you're not the best route running, you can block. I'm gonna have you on the field, but it's going to be blocking. And I think that that's just how he wants to play. And then obviously, I think these guys have good enough hands to make plays down the field. But just love what the receivers are doing. The trust, the routes, and just the bond that them and TBD has. Next, the offensive scheme seems free. I'm seeing Tyler out there checking. He's adjusting. To me, it almost feels like an NFL kind of offense where you see the guys walk up and they start to check plays and adjust based on what they're given. And a lot of that comes down to two things. One, the offense being simple enough for guys to be able to understand the checks. And secondly, Coach Dawson being smart enough to teach Tyler everything that he needs to know so he can check within Dawson's offense. So to me, I love the way that the scheme is. I love the way that it's set up. Next, Tyler Van Dyke looks bigger and faster. Obviously he's put on some weight, and I don't want to say weight isn't like fat. Weight isn't like muscle mass. Like I feel like he's gotten bigger. He's put on the right kind of weight because he definitely looks like a more solid quarterback this year. And when I mean solid, I just mean more about like his size. He always looked faster. I remember with his sophomore year when he first started playing, he had heavy feet. He was kind of slow. Obviously we saw the burst of speed for 10 yards. Yes, it was versus Bethune Cookman, but at the end of the day, this guy shows you that he's not afraid to run. He will pull it. So to me, it's going to do a lot of things to the defense, especially in the red zone they're going to prepare for. So I'm glad to see, that quick change of burst, change of speed that he had, because I think that's really going to help him because he's going to have to do that in some of these games. So the last one that we're going to talk about is really his feet. So his feet, he's done a great job putting his feet to the target, throwing behind a lot of times, at least for me. So the last one we're going to talk about is Tyler Van Dyke's feet and his ability to throw guys open this year, which he's obviously been good at last year, or even the last couple of years of throwing guys open, throwing guys for that their break. But really watching versus A&M, watch how good of a job he does. And I don't really know if this is going to show, but if you go back and watch, there was a corner out in the boundary to Xavier Restrepo, great ball through before his break. And even you go back and watch the first third down, he threw that ball when Xavier Restrepo had his back to him. That's an adjustment that, I tell a lot of my young quarterbacks saying, hey, you got to throw guys open. Don't let guys used to seeing the ball out of your hands. They need to be able to turn around and pick up the ball in the air. They need to know where you're at and saying, hey, when I turn around, my eyes need to go in between me and the quarterback, not at the quarterback, in between me and him so he can find it, locate it, and catch it. I think that was the one thing that really got Xavier was that, in that first third out, he really didn't turn his head around. But that just a testament to Tyler saying, hey, I'm going to throw you guys open, get your head around fast. I want to make sure you guys can catch it and have room to run after. A lot of times if you wait too late, you won't have room to run. But really what I want to talk about, especially when I watch these clips, is so when we're talking about TVD, one thing that I was really adamant about, was his feet to the target. So that's one thing that I think he's done a great job at, whether it's, him working on it by himself. I know there's a lot of stuff that, whenever we trained, I would definitely talk to him about. But you watch him here, great job, nice and easy, comfortable. But go back and watch his feet, man, whether it's to the left, to the right, you can kind of see wherever his feet are lined up. Like I'm probably going to pause this one before he throws. Us to roll out. This is a great job. Great job by him, just finding the guy. This play right here, okay, that hit right there. When that hit happened, I'll be honest with you guys, I was in the box and I literally said, they're not ready. This is going to be a long game for them. And they're up 17-7. But that's the second time that happened. It happened earlier in the game when James Williams did it on defense when he hit the running back. And then it happened here when Kobe Young did it. And I was like, we shot ourselves in the foot, but you can tell, like, our sideline never gave up. Our guys were in the game the entire time. So to me, this was a big game, or not really a big game, but this was a big play in the game to me, because I think it really set the tone on the defense secondary to say, hey, man, if you guys ain't here to play, it's going to be a very, very long day for you guys. So you see the whole sideline erupt right there. So let's watch him here. So look, his feet. I don't know who's over here, but you can see that his feet right here, his back ankle. Okay, so if you take his back ankle and you draw a parallel line from ankle to ankle and you have it go all the way across, okay, you'll be able to see that he's probably throwing it right where his feet are lined up. And that's a great job. You know what I mean? And that to me, and I'm not saying that, he's going to be 100% accurate like that, but it's going to help him be more consistent. And so this is one thing that, I've been looking forward. I'm loving the fact that, He's doing it in the game. Obviously, it's something that is coming over from Dawson and the training that he's had. I know that he worked with our guy David Morris at QB Country up in Alabama. So I'm just glad that a lot of the coaching is really paying off him. He's going to have a successful season because a lot of the fundamental stuff, just the small things to me is he's finally understanding he's implemented into his game because TBD's always had a strong arm. He's always been smart as hell. He's always been a likable guy. To me, when you talk about the character traits and what you kind of look for in a quarterback with size, strength, likable personality, smart as hell. Like he has all of that. To me, a lot of stuff for him has been like very small things, and then one of the big ones has been feet to the target. So me, I'm just glad to see this was the one thing that I really, really wanted to see. Hey, is he going to let this transition over from the summer to the fall? And like that's what you're seeing. You're seeing the success of him saying, hey, what do I have to get better at? How do I get better at it? And that's what he did. And so not only is it, these guys around him, look at that throw, it's a sidearm throw, but not only is the guys around like Xavier, Kobe Young, all these guys saying, hey, what can I do to get better? But it's also your leader saying, TBD, hey, what can I do to get better? So, I was just super glad to see this. Again, we're going to pause it. See, you can see he wants to throw over here. Look at his feet. If we go back just a little bit. So if you watch it, he wants to throw to the left. Look at his feet. His feet are slightly on the left side. So you can tell he's trying to go somewhere over here, but there's a whole bunch of guys. I love it. You scramble, you got your one-on-one, eyes downfield, great ball. So again, that's one thing that I really, really watch in him is where is his feet set? Because that at least tell me where the ball should go. And this right here was the mirror ball throw. So I know I was talking about earlier about the play that mirror ball called. That was mirror ball. Again, if we go back here, just watch his feet. Play action. Feet. Back ankle, right down the line. If you drew an imaginary line from ankle to ankle, his ankles are right down the line, basically where, Jacoby George is. That's a straight line throw. If I said, hey, man, you're going to warm up. Jacoby George, you're going to stand the numbers. Tyler Van Dyke, you're going to stand at the hash, warm up, front shoulder to target throw. His feet are going to look just like that. Jacoby George will be standing right in front of him. So that's a lot of stuff that I tell my guys, is saying, hey, whether it's a 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 9, 12, it doesn't matter the drop. At the end of the drop, you want your feet aligned to your target. And that's the one thing that I'm really seeing out of Tyler is his feet are aligned. I'm loving it. And that to me is what's really causing a lot of his success. For him personally, there was times last year that I felt like, check it out. And this is one thing that's really, really helping him to his success. So I'm super happy for Tyler. I think this is one thing that you guys are going to see more and more is the old TBD, the accurate guy that's slinging the ball around. But to me, I think there's going to be a lot of throws that he makes this year that in the past I think he's missed just because his feet have been misaligned. He's misaligned again. This one, I love it. Now, I will say that I'd probably want his feet a little bit more to the right, but the good news is if you see at the top, his feet are slightly aligned this way, so I can tell that hey, he's about to throw a go ball to the right. Now, say I want a little bit more just because I want a straight line, but the good news is he's a righty, so like naturally the ball is going to tend to lean a little bit more to the right because that's where it's going to come off. But I love this ball. It's a nice, easy, catchable ball. I mean, that's perfect. It's over the outside show. It's what I tell a lot of my guys. When you miss outside. If you miss inside, you see that safety running across, that safety will take his head off. And a lot of that has to do with, TVD getting his feet to the target and throwing a great, great ball. And then when you throw a great ball, this is what happens. Guy has separation. Now I'm going to make a guy miss. And now you get a tutty. So again, I love Tyler's feet. I think that's to me is the biggest difference between him, last year and a lot of other years. Even his sophomore year was his feet to the target and him throwing guys open consistently. Obviously last couple of years, he's done a good job of throwing guys open, but I feel like really with the A&M game, he did a great job all day, throwing guys open, throwing before they get out their break, being confident, feet to the target. He played a very, very good, fundamentally sound game. And that to me was why he had the 5 tutties. And so to me, I think that's gonna be the biggest thing is keeping that success. So next, we're going to talk about the keys to success for this game coming up versus Temple. So number one, takeaways. I want takeaways. I want our guys to be able, to have fun, fly around. I think this should be a really game for our defense with forced fumbles, interceptions, third down stops, things like that. So I think number one is forcing takeaways from our defensive side. Number two, establish a run game. To me, I think this would be a game that the offensive line gets a lot of love. The running backs, we should have 4 guys getting in there, getting a lot of love. So to me, establishing the run game is going to be big. I don't want to sit here and have to feel like we have to lean on the receivers and TVD, which I think we can, but I don't have to lean them. If we do throw it, I want to be because more of like, hey, we want to throw it, not that, hey, we need to throw it. So I don't think we're going to have, a problem with the run game. Plus, to me, the more you run, the less you have to show in your pass game. To me, runs are very simple. Obviously, you can do some shifts and some motions, some nuances, but for the most part, they're the same. They're very simple. The pass game is where you get super creative with formations, motions, things like that. So I think that the more that we can save, especially going into ACC play on the fall, well, really in 2 weeks, but we go into ACC play, the more we can keep, the better. Next, and I'm seeing this bite a lot of teams in the butt, I'm seeing this bite a lot of teams in the butt, minimizing penalties. Don't have a lot of holdings, don't have a lot of PIs, don't have face masks, things like that. Play sound football. No penalties after the catch or the hit or things like that. To me, I think that if we play sound football, we'll blow them out by at least 20, 30, 35-ish. I don't think 40 is a lot, but like 35-ish. I think that's a high. Between 21 and 35 is kind of where I have us if we play sound football. And next, get ready for trick plays and get ready for their defense to show something a little different than what they had the first 2 weeks. So, or even 3 weeks. So that's one thing that, I've always learned is that when you play these type of teams, they're going to have new plays. They're going to have trick plays. They're going to have some type of nuance that kind of, tries to come up there and get the lead early. Like, we saw Boise State do that last week. They came out in the first play, it was a trick play. It was like a double pass or a flea flick or something. Like, they're going to try trick plays. They're going to try to find ways to score because they know they're not going to be able to just line up and beat us. And that's fine. That's why you play these games. You got to adjust. You got to be able to understand how they're going to play you. And, I think I'm super excited. To me, these are one of those games that, like, it's not necessarily going to test you physically. To me, this is more of a mental game. Hey, can I lock in? Can I focus? Can I not look ahead? Can I take these guys serious? A lot of that starts obviously with the head guy, which I think Mario is not going to overlook Temple. But again, just because Mario doesn't overlook it doesn't mean that some of these kids won't. So I think that's going to be a big deal is he's, making sure that these kids understand, Temple is a good team. They're D1 athletes. They got transfer guys. So line up, beat them, and then let's go to the next week. Don't look past them. Don't look to that bye week or the Georgia Tech week until you pass Temple. So next we're going to talk about is Colorado moving to 3-0. I love this for college football. There were so many celebrities at the game. That's one thing that I said was that I wish Miami had that many celebrities at a game. There was like Dwayne, there was Lil Wayne, there was Key Glock. There were so many celebrities just in there chilling, watching. Obviously, you got Deion there, but to me, that's how Miami should be. I mean, so many of those people come down all the time. Like, why are they coming to a game? And so that to me is something that I wish Miami would kind of get back to. I don't want to see Colorado basically become the new Miami because I feel like the old Miami back in the 80s, 90s, that's something that we would do is have all the celebrities on the sideline party. I'm pretty sure Lil Wayne came out and started rapping as the team was coming out, which is so cool. But I think that's something that they got to win to keep that hype. But as long as you're winning, why not? Next, it's will Colorado beat USC and Oregon? I mean, they have Bo Nix Oregon has Bo Nix, who is supposed to be a Heisman candidate. And obviously, we know Caleb Williams was a Heisman for last year, probably the best odds for Heisman this year. USC has a freak nature, receiver Zachariah Branch, a freshman. Obviously, Oregon has a lot of the Mario guys, and then you add Dan Lanning from Georgia, and with his recruiting class and his mentality, obviously Mario's more of an offensive line guy, but Dan's a defensive guy. So they're still going to have that tough mindset. I like Dan Lanning. I was there with him at Georgia. I think that they're going to be very well prepared. Obviously, this week that, Colorado is going to have what Dan Lanning said about them, changing conferences. And so I think it could be very interesting to see, how they kind of use this, especially Deion and them kind of use this for publicity to get people to view in and watch and things like that. But I think it's going to be a good game. I think early it'll be close. I think later it's going to pull away. I think with them not having Travis Hunter, I think it really hurts them in the secondary. And even on offense, he was their best offensive weapon to me. I think he was a guy that kind of came in, and whether it was offense or defense, he definitely changed the game. And I'm very interested to see how Short Sander plays. I think he's going to do a lot of plays on the move. I don't think that, Oregon's going to let him comfortably just sit in the pocket and kind of pick them apart. So could be very, very interesting to see what goes on this weekend with Colorado. But the last one that I have, I know you can't see it at the bottom, but it says Deion better not leave. Deion better stay at Colorado at least for 2 to 3 years. Extra, not this year. So this year doesn't even count. So 2 or 3 more years, because you have guys decommitted from Notre Dame, all these big schools. You have the #1 quarterback coming in for a 2025 class. You can't just leave. And I get it. And I don't think he's going to, but it also has me worried is that he's losing his son. He's losing his quarterback. Obviously, he's going to go to the league. Does Deion still want to stay around? Does he want to go to a city that's kind of near his son? That's kind of things that, I wonder. Because obviously, if Deion's like, hey, I want to go do a head coaching job, there's going to be a lot of schools that want Deion. So I think it'll be very, very interesting to see what happens. But I really hope Deion stays here for at least the next 3 to 5 years to help a lot of these guys that he's been recruiting really come up. And then, after 3 to 5 years, he wants to transfer, go somewhere else. I'm perfectly fine with that. But I think there's a lot of young guys that are seniors this year in high school that have decommitted and transferred or committed, to Deion. And that if he was to leave after this year, to me, it's just be sad. But I don't think he will. There's a lot of money involved, things like that. But Could be very interesting to see if Deion has a super successful year. Is there any other schools that try to reach out and offer the bag to hire him? So next, I want to go into my games of the week. Number one, Notre Dame, Ohio State. Got to go with Notre Dame. I don't know what the spread is, but I got Notre Dame by 3. I don't know what any of these spreads. I'm just going to tell you my ideas, but I got Notre Dame at least by 3. I know it's at Ohio State. I think the first half will be kind of tight, but I think the big thing is one. I think Ohio State still has a little bit of quarterback troubles. I think they play a good defense. He doesn't know how to go consecutive 12, 13, 14 play drives. I think he has explosive plays, but I don't think he necessarily wants to drive the field a whole bunch of times. And with Notre Dame, that's what they want to do. They want to play slow. They want to play sluggish. They want to hit you in the mouth. They want to get 5-6 yards a game. They have big 6'4" receivers that's going to block you downfield. They have guys that can go get the ball. They have obviously a great quarterback. I'm not a Notre Dame fan by any means, but I am a Sam Hartman fan. He led the ACC in passing touchdowns, so he's a guy that knows how to score. He's a guy that, to me, is used to playing with under-talented guys. We're never talking about him at Wake Forest competing versus FSU, Florida State, Louisville. Wake Forest don't recruit. I mean, they do, but they don't. And so it's like now you got him with Notre Dame, who always has a top class that has all these big 4 and 5 stars everywhere. So I really got Notre Dame. I think they have the quarterback advantage. I think they have the physical advantage, which is going to be 2 huge advantages into this game because I'm very interested to see how Ohio State plays when they get hit in the mouth for the first couple times. Next, Colorado, Oregon. Sorry, Colorado. I think this is your first loss. Obviously, I had you guys losing earlier, but to me, I think this is your first loss. This is the first team that they're going to have a lot of talented everywhere. They're going to be deep. I think that's where it kind of hurts you guys is that they're going to rotate a lot of guys. You guys aren't. But I got Oregon. I think it's going to be a very tight game. I think Oregon winds up slipping away no more than 10 points, but I have it somewhere between a 7 to 10 point spread for Oregon to beat Colorado. Next, Ole Miss at Alabama. This one could get wild. This one could be an absolute blowout, depending on if Alabama's offense is even productive. Because one thing about Lane Kiffin is he's going to score. He doesn't care who you are, what defense you run. He's going to find a way to score. So obviously, Ole Miss is going to score. I think that if Alabama can compete, then it could be interesting. But to be honest with you, I know it's going to sound weird, but I got Ole Miss. I got Ole Miss sneaking by with like a last-minute field goal, especially after watching high play versus USF. I get that. The quarterback play does play a lot, but to be honest with you, Jalen Milroe does make a lot of plays, but it's not like he's like this above and beyond exception behind the other quarterback. So to me, I'm picking Ole Miss. I hope that they have Alabama winning because it's at Bama, because I'm definitely taking Ole Miss's spread. But we'll see, man. I have Ole Miss probably beating them by somewhere last-minute field goal, maybe by somewhere between 1 to 3 points. I don't think it's going to be an absolute blowout, but I definitely think that Ole Miss is going to put up points and they could run away with it if Alabama can't score early. Next, Florida State, Clemson. Oh, man, I don't even know who I want to go for in this game. It's hard. I mean, I know Florida State's going to win. I mean, it's not the question. Florida State, they're too good. They're going to. I mean, I think they're going to harass the quarterback, K. Klubnik for Clemson. I think that their ends are too good. The one thing that I am very interested in is to see, can Will Shipley take over at running back? Can he kind of become that spark that really, really helps his young quarterback kind of settle in? Because this Florida State team is big, they're fast, they're physical. I think on offense, they had the biggest advantage. Obviously, Clemson has a really, really good defense, and they're really good middle linebacker. So I think it can be a lot of matchup that happens. But to me, I think on the outside between Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson, I think there's a lot of just like mismatch they can do between formations, personnel groupings, things like that. That makes it very hard for Clemson. And I think this is a big game for Dabo. If Dabo loses at Clemson and gets blown out by Florida State, it's going to be a long year for him. And so we'll see how they do. But I definitely think that, for this one with Florida State, I think Florida State wins it. I think they're just a more physical team than Clemson. I think that at the end of the day, Clemson, not that they're not mentally strong, but I think that like they're just young in some areas that need to be mentally strong. And the last game of the week, Arkansas at LSU. I don't even know who to go for here. I mean, both teams are pretty decent. I like Jaden Daniels. I mean, I haven't like Arkansas quarterback. That guy's big. He's strong. He runs around. He's in QB country, and I don't like betting against QB country guys. So I don't know. I'm very curious to see who you guys have picked for this LSU Arkansas game. I'm leaning more towards LSU, especially because it's at home. I think Jay Daniels is going to play very, very well. I think that if Malik Neighbors can have a big game, they'll be fine. So I got LSU more because it's at home and it's very, very hard to go inside of it's hard to go to LSU and win. I mean, have you seen their stadium? They might have the loudest stadium in college football. And so to me, it's very, very hard to win there. And I think it's going to be a game that is, if not sold out, very close to being sold out. And so to me, I think this could be a matchup that gets pretty crazy, to be honest with you guys. Lastly, what we're going to go over, and again, guys, I'm sorry about the coloring. I'll fix a lot of it. But lastly, what we're going to go over is the best and the worst quarterbacks in the NFL this week. So number one, CJ Stroud. He looked very, very good. 2 touchdowns, over 257 yards. Threw the ball all over the field. So I was very excited to see him. I think that was kind of his spark saying, hey, I'm in the NFL. Obviously, they got to win. But, to see him throw for that many yards, 2 touchdowns, obviously had a fumble. But to see him really, really, start to come into his own was really, really good for the Houston Texans. Second, Kirk Cousins, 4 tutties. You got to put him on here, 300-something plus yards. So was very, very proud. I won't say proud, but I was very pleased by the way that, Kirk Cousins played. Obviously, they lost, but I mean, they're playing against Philadelphia Eagles. It's a very hard team. Number 3, Geno Smith got the win versus a very, very tough Detroit team. I think he actually played very well. I think he's been a guy for me for a long time that I've always believed he had the tools. He was one of my favorite quarterbacks at West Virginia. And they had Tavon Austin, and it's something that I think that is finally carrying over. He's finally getting his chance. He's finally studied everything he had to do, and now he's getting that chance. He studied everything that he had to do, and now he's finally getting that chance to show it. And the 2 worst, well, one's Deshaun Watson, and I don't want to say he's the worst quarterback because definitely he's not. I definitely think he's a top 12, 15 quarterback. But I mean, pick 6 really wasn't on him. A fumble on 4th down, he tried to stretch it. I mean, kind of on him. The fumble late in the 4th when the guy runs around him, definitely on him. And he just had some other mishaps, some other things that it was just like, dude, what are you doing? I mean, he had 2 face masks where he blatantly grabbed the guy in their face mask and literally chunks him down. And it's just like, come on, man. Too good to be doing that, to be honest with you. Like, he's someone that, when I'm seeing them playing I'm seeing them playing the Steelers, and the Steelers are good, but like their defense is good. I mean, their defense put up 14 points. If you take back the fumble recovery that Deshaun Watson fumbled, and TJ Watt scooped and scored, and then you talk about the opening pick that wasn't his fault, but he helped the guy's hands, he helped his tight end's hands, and it bounced back. It's totally different game at the end of the day. You got to overcome that. To me, the great quarterbacks are able to overcome mistakes that happen throughout the game. He had 2 drives late in the 4th that to me low key fumbled both of them, and so to me that just really hurt him. I think he's someone that is a lot better than the way he played, but to me, I think he was one of the worst quarterbacks of the week, to be honest. The next is Justin Fields. You watch him; he had a whole bunch of sacks. They gave him plenty of time. Some of the throws he had 4 seconds, and he's running up in the pocket, getting sacked. And then there was a couple of times where like he's not throwing guys open. There's one thing you heard about TVD. His guys are even out of his break, and the ball's out of his hand. There was one time in the red zone where they did kind of like a bunch streak formation, and the guy down the middle between the 2 was wide open, and he's trying to wait for something. I don't know what he's waiting for, but he's waiting for something. I don't know if he was looking at the wrong spot, looking at the wrong guy. I truly don't know. But to me, I think Deshaun Watson, Justin Fields definitely play the worst. And these 2 guys that are super athletic, but they got to be a quarterback. They got to be able to, beat guys in the pocket, play with themselves, and not have so many mistakes. And even if it's not mistakes, like not have sacks, not sack yourself, not, let a guy go play. There was one time it was a 3rd and 3, and Pittsburgh brings a blitz off the boundary, and they have a bunch of races to the field. If they blitz off the boundary, if that field end doesn't drop, there's no one in the flats. I'm not going to lie to you. I saw David Njoku running wide open in the flats. I'm kind of pissed off as a quarterback. It's like, hey, the blitz is coming here. They didn't drop the guy to the field, which means they're going to be in conflict to the field. And David Njoku's running wide open in the flats. It was like a fourth quarter, 3rd down or something like that. So to me, I think there's a lot of mistakes that when you go back and really watch him, I know these quarterbacks go back and watch, they're like, damn, I missed a lot of stuff. So super interested to see, what happens these next couple of weeks. I thank you guys for watching this episode. I hope you guys really liked it. Again, I am in communication with the graphics guy, but I am excited. We finally got our first production room. Shout out to Mike Murphy and Murphy Auto Group. They have been a huge supporter of me and my YouTube page, and we finally got the production room up. So it's a green screen behind me. I was using a virtual green screen. Now I have like a real green screen, which is nice. We have lights. The lighting should look better. So I hope you guys really like this episode. There will be more to come, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.